The game, as usual, has started, so we're going to jump right into the game. Please,
just go
production,
right in.
just straight head first. And we're going to see Enchantress, Bounty Hunter, Anti-Mage. Nothing too repeated. Pretty big variety.
Yeah, pretty much what you'd expect from the first couple of rounds of the game. Players are just kind of starting to get their things up. Got the Venomancer with the Gloves of Haste here. And I really do like attack speed. It scales so well into this late game. Again, keep in mind, this is just a 25% DPS increase, effectively, and meta gain from attacks. So very, very powerful late game scaling item.
Yeah. 2 Bloodseekers there as well with Helm of the Undying, the new item. Bit cheeky, but definitely a strong combination for the early game at least. Like I mentioned yesterday, it does kind of expire at round 15, not as impactful on the board.
And we see Cmel already complete the first 2-star of the game in the Bounty Hunter, using the new Brooch of the Martyr, which recently got buffed for a little bit of debuff resistance. Got the old Human Alliance Global, which gives you stun duration reduction.
Not crazy, but obviously a bit of a positive little push forward for an item that was sitting kind of in the middle of the pack for the tier 1 items.
So we got a pretty slow start here. A couple of players looking at Tusk. Savage is typically regarded before this patch as one of the strongest strategies in the game, and it's still quite good. But it seems like it's feeling a decent amount worse these days, which has caused Knights to just kind of leap ahead relatively.
And we see it pretty contested. We see Enchantress, Tusk, and Venomancer on many boards, 2 copies of each. So maybe in theory, percentage-wise, a bit harder to find. But of course, the reroll function now makes it just a tiny bit easier to find those 2-star units early on. Joseph not playing yet, but when he comes, he is the happiest person on earth after reading those patch notes.
We got Cmel already on the very casual 5 Bounty Hunter, 1 2-star and 2 1-stars. So he's on track. This is a beautiful board. That's what you want to see.
Now round 4 going to start very soon. Finally, some actual player interaction. Of course, we have the new update with the 1v1 battles going on, and the split on the side makes it very easy for the viewers. I think the UI Underlords became, it was already very good functionally. Intuitive for early game, beginning players as well, but now it's just even better in that regard.
Yep. One thing I'm curious if we might see at one point today or tomorrow is some player trying to go 9 assassins. I think it's probably not a tier 1 strategy. It's probably a little too many things going on. You don't often want to be leveling to 9 so aggressively. But honestly, the extra kind of pocket sand effect you get from it, plus having built-in frontlines now with Morphling and Sand King and even a Queen of Pain, actually makes it considerable.
Maybe it's something players like Snofe that have already essentially qualified can try out, for example. He is kind of, let's say, trolling a tiny bit. He does have the troll on board with Batrider, so very fitting.
We got our first view of these double bounty hunters going to town on Wrist's board. We're probably going to make a lot of mistakes, with this new format. This
get used to it. Get those APMs going, swim. The board switches.
Yep. And
here I think the DPS from the Bounty Hunter Ultimate is very important, especially when in the early game there are many units like Enchantress, for example, that have that sustainability. I think it's going to be pretty massive. Yep. It's just a good early game unit, to be honest.
This is just crushing.
At level 2.
So I think if you're in the position of someone like Cmel, you got that double bounty hunter early on, you could definitely try to turn this into a early assassin combo.
Yeah, they're twins and the same item too.
Yep. Huge upgrades all around.
They're mirrored on the board as well.
YCA4 got the Queen of Pain 2-star. Pretty great upgrade.
Very strong.
Yep. How do you pronounce it? Do you remember? It's not YCA4. They were telling us.
So there's a little tidbit from behind the scenes. YCA4 is a Russian player, and he has a Russian pronunciation, of course.
Yes.
But we forgot it. So we're sorry, YCA4.
I couldn't have pulled off that pronunciation anyway.
The Y is pronounced like a U, so it's like Yusush?
You suck?
No, not you suck.
Okay. So we have the Queen of Pain positioned in the second row. Pretty standard positioning for Queen of Pain. You just want her to not leap forward. You do not want her assassin tag triggering. So she just wants to be in the second row where she can be a little bit safer, but also just get a scream off on as many units as possible. Get the new Claymore on her as well. 30 attack damage, getting turned into 45 with this Demon perk.
Yeah, all the tier 1 items got buffed, essentially, so it was very interesting to see. It's not something I expected, to be honest, but makes all the tier 1 items, like I think Joel said before, much more impactful overall.
Chainmail's back to its former glory at 10 armor. 10 armor on your standard 5 armor unit is a 49% EHP increase against physical.
It feels good.
Yeah. It's almost a 50% increase on health against auto attack damage.
Max finds the Batrider 2, a very early Batrider 2, round 6. A great unit in the early game as well. Really shines with its DPS in the early game more than anything. Late game kind of falls off a tiny bit.
Yep. And we're talking about knights being very good. And, you know, the analyst desk was also talking about kind of Max being one of the key focuses of this game, just in terms of, like, you know, in the next 2 rounds, he's kind of the 4th placer right now. So he's the one that can kind of decide how this goes. He wants to play safe while the others are wanting him to take risks. And I want to actually point out a little bit what we mean when we say play safe or taking risks, because we say that a lot, but we don't really give examples. I think, for example, going a build that a lot of other people are going is fundamentally risky, right? Because you could finish first. We see knights finishing first like every game, but it's just one of like 3 players that go knights, and sometimes the other knights could just get blocked out, right? So this is a bit of a risk here, trying to like push a strategy potentially if he wants to go for something like 6 knights that a lot of other people might be trying to go.
Yeah, less consistent, more room for high rolls and low rolls. If you get the high roll, fantastic. If you don't, then your name is Joseph, and it becomes a problem.
Okay, let's go ahead and check out the top performing board at this point in time. Nairo time. He's got the pretty much the dream early game board. Savages, again, are just not precisely what they used to be, but at the same time, I mean, they're still powerful early. Venomancer, Enchantress.
Good DPS from Batrider, good sustain from the Druids. Really has just the full combo that you need. Maybe the front line's a bit lacking, not too tanky of a front line, but the sustain from the Druids does help with that. And here's a Knights, you know, fairly strong board with Max. 99 HP still, so very strong. We'll see if it's enough, though. Batrider on Batrider action.
We're going to have Nero time win this. I mean, he definitely has to have the strongest board here, just with all these 2 stars, and even like the trolls kind of working in tandem. Batrider being one of the strongest early game heroes. Napalm just fits the needs of the early game so well, because you have these slow, grindy fights that Napalm just is able to clean up. And anything that performs well in these slow fights, Napalm, Bloodseeker, Slark, excels at early game spots.
In the same way, sustain is also, you know, I think it's the same principle, because it's a slow amount of healing, but because there isn't that much DPS, there's not that much burst in the early game, you can just out-sustain damage, and then that's why Druids shine so much and then fall off so much in the late game.
Exactly. Everything on this board, because, I mean, the game just speeds up, right? So slow stuff. Enchantress, very slow heal, only every 1.5 seconds, but very powerful. Venomancer, cooldown-based, 5 seconds. Furion, Nature's Prophet, cooldown-based as well. So this is just super, super powerful, almost the nuts this early into the game.
Snofe, a player we're going to be watching, going to see what strategy he goes for. He's gone Hunters until now for 3 games in a row. We'll see if this 4th game has a change of heart, tries something else. Like we said before, he's basically already qualified.
Yep, and it looks like he's playing for a deep economy strat. He has a very weak board here. Surprisingly, still at 93 health. Not on a lose streak yet, but he's at 20 gold. We can see he's not putting value into his board here. Got the double Terror Blades stacked up on the bench.
Have to really look closely to the bottom 4 players that really have to try and place that, you know, in the first spot to try and get those points. Game 4, only 2 games left in this group. It's getting, you know, near to the end, and players like Wrist and TrueMad and YCA have to really step it up and find, you know, that very strong final comp to get the top 1.
Yep, only these last 2 games are left to them. So we can see here, pretty standard start on the side of Wrist. He's got the Bloodseeker. As mentioned, like one of the early game, just like capitalization units, but he's got a very weak board apart from that. I mean, he's managed to pair the Druids. Not too much else. We have kind of the main tank Chaos Knight, but he's mostly playing for economy.
And of course, the shop update allows us to see the units the players are buying. 2 huge updates actually for spectating Underlords as well for the eSport going forward, with the 1v1 battles in the end game. And I guess pretty much at any time in the game, really. Makes it much more exciting. And the shop, being able to spectate the players, you know, what they pass up on, what they actually buy, how they overflow. It, you know, lets you really delve into their minds and see what they're thinking about in every single moment.
And we were all having breakfast this morning, and we were like, oh, thank God they patched. This is amazing for us, because it just makes things so much easier.
And great timing as well. Maybe one day late, but overall we can't complain. Still the bulk of the tournament still left with day 2, and then, of course, 2 more days this weekend.
You good?
That was a weird one.
Ooh, you aged like 20 years in a sentence. Yo, okay, so we got Chow Knives over here. Let's see the other streaker. He's got a pretty competent board here. He's got the early 4 Knights and even the level 2 Omni Knight. Very, very scary early game path. And we can see already there's 4 players thinking about going Knights. Pretty standard stuff right now.
Of course, they can still pivot. It's still, you know, we're still round 10. Not really committed to Knights just yet. Some players are on 4 Knights. A lot of 2-stars already. They are probably going to commit all the way. Other players still on 3 Knights, maybe not even 2-starring yet. We see Chaos Knights and Batrider still level 1 for Snow, for example. So you still have the chance to look at, you know, you tab in, you look at the board, you see it, you know, there's the majority of players are going Knights and say, okay, you know, I'm going to move to something else.
See TrueMad benching a bunch of mages over here. We can check out what these like round 10 items are going to be as well.
TrueMad is benching mages, Swim. That's very surprising coming from TrueMad.
I think this TrueMad guy seems to have a bit of a thing for his mage element.
Who would have thought, after playing 23 games out of 29, playing mages in the qualifiers?
Okay, so do we have the ability to? Sorry about that. Unrelated. All right. So we have Cmel here. He's on the pretty committed assassin path here. It looks like he's planning to go for the 6 assassins. We've got the 3 already up, and he's benching more. Taking the aggressive sell to hit this interest point, though.
Cmel, another player that is pretty much qualified. He's at 47 points, I believe, right now. In second place, just behind snofe. And, of course, only 2 games left. And I think fifth place was at 34. So a very long way away from him. Of course, you can't get less than 1 point per game. Even 8th place gets 1 point. So he's essentially at 49 points. Minimum.
Exactly. We see a couple fall from graces picked up, one of them by Wrist, who's already pretty committed into Knights, and this commits him further. Part of the reason Knights are so good after the patch is because everyone's global alliance is gone, but Knights kind of, their global item wasn't so much the Age of Chivalry, but actually the Fall from Grace. They didn't really like Age of Chivalry that much, but Fall from Grace just pairs so well with what Knights want to do. It
was similar to Warriors before, but with a Lycan change to Hunter, Warriors kind of stopped becoming that, optimal comp with Fall from Grace, similar to Knights. They had before the Pudge, Kunkka, Lycan combo for the 3 Warrior frontline. And in this case, it's just essentially just for Knights now.
Yep. Nairo hitting the peak streak over here. As we see the top 3 players just start to dominate, these role functions for these low players from losing some boards don't seem to be helping too much in this particular game. We got Max bring the axe on 6 Tusks. He's looking to complete another 3-star pretty early as well, but not finding any luck.
And Aegis for Chow Knives and TrueMad as well, so important to remember for the late game. They might not be dead when they do actually die. Instead, that Aegis will absorb that damage and allow you to survive 1 extra round. A very controversial item. A lot of different opinions.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I think you do pick it over some tier 1 items, but probably not over all of them.
And it's hard to value exactly how good it is. I think that's the main point that makes it so interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I think that it's easy to look at a game where Aegis gets you an extra position on the end of the board and be like, okay, Aegis did something that game. But
very flashy.
If you pick a chainmail or a gloves of haste on round 3, it'll by the time you're round 20, you'll have definitely a very noticeable amount of extra health, like 10 or 15 extra health easily.
And we see Snofe with a few more level 2 Knights, so he may be committing for Knights as well. We're going to look at the tab and see, exactly still there's still quite a few Knight players. Max bring the axe seemed to be very much into Knights, but now he has those 6 Tucks. He has the Mirana as well. Might be transitioning. I
think if you're Max, you're going to have to start thinking about it. We're seeing the late level 6, and this is something that we're really seeing more and more of these days where, before when we were all fighting for the early game, a lot of players would just never level to 6, past basically 11 at the latest, usually 9. Now the round 13, level 6 is pretty common where a lot of the players are playing for economy or just letting themselves lose streak.
And Max, I think the most important player to spectate overall in these next 2 games. He is 4th right now. He has a point gap, but he has to play consistently to kind of guarantee that top 4. Had a good start to the day today with the first in the second game and a 2nd place in the last game we saw. But he has to keep it up, and right now he is at the bottom of the leaderboard or close to it. Has to make sure to get the comeback going for the mid-game.
Yeah, getting very smashed by YCA's board here. And I gotta say, I'd really love to see Max pivot out of Knights. He's only dipped into them slightly. He's got the 2 Knight pair. He's got to be thinking at this point, okay, it's just a bat-ready 2-star and 2 Lunas. The second Luna isn't even doing that much on my board. I got to be thinking about getting out of this. There's too many people on Knights. He's pressing tab. You can tell all these players, very high players are always going to be scouting basically every single turn. And he basically has to be thinking, what else am I looking to go?
It's a great thing in Underlords as well. You can just press tab, 1 button, and you get so much information. Alliances, items, the bench as well, the board, the win streaks even, and the overall record. So just a good feature to have. Like I mentioned before, the functionality with Underlords, the UI, I think, is one of the best parts of this game.
There he goes. Max goes into 4 Knights after all. He might find a way to escape this. He doesn't really have great options right now. As mentioned, he had the 2nd Luna on the board, so just kind of in that moment, he probably didn't really have another choice other than this. But if he pursues this Knight path deeper, I don't think that's going to end too well for him, honestly. I mean, he's kind of late to the party. He doesn't have too much of a dip into it. He doesn't have the Fall from Grace. He doesn't have a really, really good early Knight progression. He's even got the Tusk going for the 3-star path, which sort of leads him in a different direction.
And Wrist, 46 HP, round 14, so very early to be that low, under 50 HP. He's also going Knights, but he has the pivot into Demons on the bench, so he has a plan B at least, Anti-Mage level 2 already. Terrorblade 1 away. Once he gets that Terrorblade level 2, he may look to pivot, may look to find a different route to fall off of knights in the mid game and transition to a late game, more demon-centric comp.
Yeah, you can run them in tandem as well. A lot of players, there were a couple times yesterday where we saw like 6 Knights and Demon Hunters, sometimes 4 Knights just because Chaos Knight links them together. And Knights, you want to combine their defense with Demon Hunter's offense. There's also a bug right now currently in the client that makes Demon Hunters not scale super properly with the amount of demons on the board, which is why we haven't seen a ton of Demon Hunters taking over these lobbies yet. So it's possible Rist is just aware of that and he just wants to splash these Demon Hunters instead of going full demons. Okay, so we get the round 15 items coming in here. It's going to make a big difference in terms of who goes what.
Do some early tier 4 for YCA, Tidehunter, and Lone Druid on his board.
Got it.
Well done, Sven.
All right. So as mentioned, this is a really good example of exactly what we were talking about when we were calling the sort of like going what other people are going, the popular builds. Right now, the name of the popular build is Knights, but going the same thing that other people is just going to be fundamentally risky. We see Chow Knives, one of the Knights players. He's coming really well along. He's got 2 Chaos Knights. He was the one who found Omni Knight 2-star super early, and he's paired Heartless with Drow Ranger 2-star. So he's got a great Knight setup, whereas 2 of the other players going Knights are bottom of the board right now, Max and Rist, who might have to be thinking about getting out of this comp.
Which is why it was so odd to see the first game. The top 3 players were all Knights.
Yes.
They were all 6 Knights, and they were all at the top with level 2 everything. So essentially they weren't bothering each other at all with the shared pool, which is very odd to see. I think it was definitely just a strange anomaly because it's just not something you normally see, even with the reroll difference now with a new patch and kind of the changes to that system.
And we see Rist here getting absolutely pummeled by snofe.
And Rist is a player that's at the bottom of the leaderboard. He needs to get these first place finishes. Even top 4 might not be enough. And right now, it's looking even worse than that at 36 HP on round 16.
On Omni Knight, and Max has to be good here. So Max, at the very least, has ended his lose streak. He has to be looking for some way to go forward. I mean, he didn't really find anything that's going to like incline him further into Knights from these items. He might not be able to escape something like 4 Knights, but maybe he will see the situation and feel like, okay, let's not gem 6.
And Naira-Time in a very good position was one of those players also that needs to get a very top placement in this game. Has a great 4 Savage start with 2 stars all around. Some good items as well with that Blink Dagger, for example. And can transition into Savage Warlocks, for example. Has that Shadow Fiend, two of them already on the board and bench. And with the next one, you'll have a huge power spike in DPS. Even with the nerf to Shadow Fiend, I think it's still a fairly good Warlock.
Yep. Shadow Fiend, I mean, it's really hard for a Demon Warlock to just be a bad thing by design. I mean, it's just going to do so much. I do think it's a bit more balanced here. We have the double Venomancer 2-star and the Enchantress 2-star, but I really got to watch this Bounty Hunter 3-star perform here. Cmel recently just got the Bounty Hunter 3-star and the 4 Scrappy. He's looking to get this 3rd Assassin online, and this board is crazy good.
But the Shadow Fiend is great against Assassins as well. They're normally all in the backline kind of bunched together. And Shadow Fiend's ult does a great AoE burst. And it looks like it's going to be...
goes down a little too fast, yeah. This board, it's needing one more thing. It's needing like the 3rd Assassin to really take off. He needs to find one more slot for the TA. As much potential as this board has, it needs one more unit slot and a Tinker upgrade.
And Max still going lower and lower, 38 HP for him as well. We talked about it before, kind of the player in the middle right now at 4th place. Really has to just perform consistently. He doesn't need that top 1 place. He just needs a solid, maybe a 3rd place, 2nd place, 4th place, have a few more points on the board, and make sure the 5th place player isn't really catching up in these last 2 games in the group.
Yep. And as we mentioned a lot of these games are basically like the onus is always on the players that are a little bit unlucky earlier, kind of the lose streakers, to decide exactly like how they want to be kind of like adjusting with the tempo of the game. We see Max, for example, has spent gold down to 30, whereas Rist, on the other hand, is greeting at 51 gold. And I think this kind of reflects their positions on the leaderboard. We were talking about Max. His standing makes him want to play safe, and Rist's standing might make him want to take risks.
A very close battle here, but Max does end up winning it against snofe, and snofe is pretty healthy, so you can relatively say, he's a very strong opponent. You still won against him, now you feel a tiny bit safer.
Yep. Recently, being able to slap the Gloves of Haste on this Luna. Again, a very powerful item. Even 25 attack speed in this case. It doesn't seem like much, but this is going to be adding something like 80 DPS because her Glaives does so much in conjunction with her normal attack value.
And he was falling behind compared to the other Knights players before in terms of level 2s, in terms of how many Knights he had. But right now, he's looking pretty good. Quite a few level 2s, double Abaddon there as well. Missing the Dragon Knight, of course, for those 6 Knights. And Xiao Knights and Naratime still very, very healthy up top, 90 HP and 80 HP respectively. 4 Knights, 4 Xiao Knives. Heartless already active as well, and of course the Savage is very, very close there for Naratime. 5 already on the board.
Yeah, oddly enough, Max brings the axe is, I think, at this point thinking about something like a Dragon Knight. We see, like, nobody else is on 6 Knights. Maybe he's actually thinking, like, if he can get the Dragon Knight, maybe some of these other players will start to, like, keep it at 4 Knights, or maybe think about, like, transitioning out of it. There's always, like, almost this game of chicken a little bit.
See Bloodseeker there in the back line still. Level 19, he's still here, and he's doing quite well. He got that last little heal there, killing the Luna. And, yeah, a big win for Riss and a big loss for Mac. There's going to be a lot of damage coming in here. Yep. And both players in a very similar position, 30 or so HP for each one. Oof. And Max goes down to 25. He has to start getting very careful with his gold. Yep. Although we get the stall round now at round 20 with the creeps.
And I think this is basically the plan. Like, you burn down a bit on the 18, sacrifice a few interest points, econ back up to 20, and then, you know, when you're on, like, maybe a little bit of extra gold, you get, like,
Snofe, Terrorblade, level 3 on round 20. That is scary, even with a patch.
Round 20. That is absolutely insane.
He has the anti-mage as well. That's going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. However, he doesn't have the Blink Dagger. We've seen, you know, throughout this entire tournament, Blink Dagger, Terrorblade being kind of like the scariest combination. Very dependent on that early mana and even mobility in the mid-fight.
Let's see how much damage it really does. Snofe, of course, is very much cruising in this game, so the Terrorblade isn't necessarily going to save him from the depths of the leaderboard. He is at the very top right now, but it's still obviously very good to have.
So we're going to see how these items are going to impact these players' directions that they're going to want to take here. This is where the fights start really, really mattering. The first 20 rounds of Underlords is kind of like the economy and setup. A lot of it is like fairly slow-paced. A lot of players are just kind of like planning ahead. And after round 20 is when things start getting very explosive.
See a Dagon there from YCA on round 20. Not too bad. Dragonite level 2 for Trueman, who was initially maybe going mages. He is still going mages. Dragon Knight mages is a very common comp.
A huge proponent of that. Unfortunately, he's kind of on the scrappy front line right now, and it's a little bit hard to like marry the 3 concepts together. But whenever you can get a Dragon Knight 2-star, it's a little hard to ignore. It's a very, very 2-star dependent hero.
He is missing the puck, though.
Yep.
I'll have to look for that in the next few rounds.
All right, so we have his board against Max brings the axe, and as we can see, Max is down to 25 health. He's burned down to 22 gold, and he's kind of hit that stabilization point that he's looking for just so much here. He's got the additional knight online, and he's actually chonking through this board really hard, being able to win over TrueMads, who was not the strongest board at the time, but definitely like, you know, kind of average board compared to Max, who was second board, or second board from the weakest.
And Xiao Knife still very healthy, 82 HP. Wrist and Max both falling under 30. It gets very dangerous for both players, and Wrist still at 67 gold.
Yep.
We talked about it. He has to risk.
About this. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, especially like when you're I mean, this is the perfect strategy. Like, you know that nothing short of like first place matters. If you get like 5th, you're not really. It doesn't matter. 5th and 8th are the same thing. 4th is maybe like acceptable, but not really. You're going for broke.
And also mentioning tiebreakers, I saw earlier the YCA, he is 5th right now. He has a chance to get 4th if he does, you know, play some good games here at the end. But if a tie does happen with Max, he was currently at -20 round differential. And that is the first tiebreaker in this tournament. So he has to make sure he wins rounds as well, and really has to hope for winning, getting that 4th place position without it being a tie.
We can see Wristboard taking off. I was able to kill that Slark, but will fall down to Cmel's Scrappy Inventors here with a 3-star Bounty Hunter. That is starting to really, really come online. As mentioned, it was one of the stronger boards in the mid-game. Naratime
was second place before, but he's currently just falling in, you know, a straight dip down to 53, taking 14 damage there as well. YCA also takes 14 damage.
Yeah, the Savage unit's falling off very harshly.
Disruptor, Blink Dagger is a very good combo, though. And Wrist has to start thinking about rolling that gold down. He's in the one-shot, maybe not one-shot range, but it's getting close. And he does not have an Aegis. It's only TrueMad and YCA that have one.
Naratime finding the Venomancer 3-star. It's going to help him stabilize. He's even got the Octarine core.
But both components were nerfed in the last patch, so it's good, but it's not, that kind of broken good that it was yesterday, maybe.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of lords talking about the idea of like not necessarily going for a Venomancer 3-star anymore. I mean, it's a really, really big nerf to the idea of Venomancer 3-star. It's like maybe you get a Venomancer 2-star, it's still good in the mid game, but maybe you sell out and go for something else. Try to hard transition out of it.
And the Blink Dagger Coddle there, not doing the greatest job, did fire backwards. And didn't really hit many targets.
God, how the mighty have fallen, Panda. Look at this.
Yeah, the snaky boys used to be, well, very big snakes and very damaging snakes, but at this point, they're kind of a joke.
Pudge 3 on the board of YCA3. It's going to go well with his like triple hunter lineup. Pudge is just like the quintessential hunter front line. It's like the solo tank that carries them so far. Works well with the undead or heartless on Drow as soon as the Drow gets back on this board when it upgrades. But he's got the Fall from Grace on the Kunkka, so it kind of means he doesn't need the Drow in this case.
So the Druids on the bench, not on the board right now. Might be time to sell them, and yep, that's the case. Both go bye-bye.
But we got to be watching Wrist and Max brings the axe. These two players at this point in time are on the stabilization path. They're both trying to jam Knights in hard. Look at this, the perfect example of what we're saying. 6 Knights in 1st, 7th, and 8th. Like, it's just such a risky strategy. And I like it on the side of Wrist, but not on the side of Max brings the axe. I think he's not really playing to his odds right now because he's in 4th place. He needs to just play safe, but he's going for broke here, curving deep into Knights, and it has a chance to just end him here.
We talked about Fall from Grace being great with Knights, and we see it here for Wrist as well. He has the Dragon Knight active. He has that great DPS unit. He has the Puck instead of the Viper.
Wrist has to be good here, but Max brings the axe on Cmel's board is also going to scrape by a win, and we can see him having spent all of his gold just to try to stay alive a little bit longer. So both these players are kind of doing pretty much what's appropriate. I do like how Wrist is greeting this a little bit further. He hasn't spent down to 0 yet, even though he's in one-shot range. Because, I mean, if you spend down to 0, you just have like no chance of getting 1st or 2nd, and that's what you need.
And we see players like Snofe and Cmel that don't necessarily need a good placement here at the top, and the rest of the players are all at the bottom, so it's going to be problematic for players like Time, YCA, and Wrist to try and find the points they need to place well.
Yep. So we can see here we're very close to the Omni Knight. Omni Knight being like, recently, fairly recently buffed. Purification is doing 720, a large AoE later. One upgrade off on the side of Wrist, and I think after this creep round, you gotta start rolling a little bit, even though we talked about playing risky. This is kind of the point where you're so close to this powerful out that is Omni Knight, maybe like a couple other things that could happen along the way, and I think you might have to take a couple rolls here.
Looking at Snofe, he is on a win streak. Does not surprise me with a Terrible 8-3 on round 20. We haven't gotten the chance to see him, and now we're going to maybe check him out for round 26, although it's very interesting to see what Wrist and Max do as well. They're kind of players that are about to die. They don't have Aegis either, so it is if you die, you die, and a lot on the line for both players. Yeah,
and I think it's interesting talking about like how the strategies kind of differ depending on how they personally choose to play it, but also like what they need to achieve in this game. I think that's really interesting. At this point in the tournament, players are literally aiming for different things.
To what items come in, we saw a Scythe of Vice there for Snofe. Black King Bar for Max, a bit more tankiness on some, important units.
Yeah, not typically great with Knights. Typically you want like offensive items on Knights, like the Masculine is on this Luna, whereas BKB is good on like more offensive, naturally units like Terrorblade to tank them up.
We see a difference here. No Dragon Knight 2 for Max. He has the Necrophos before the Dragon component, which is the opposite for Wrist, and Wrist just looks better overall with the Dragon Knight 2 mainly. Just kind of the hard to carry unit for Knights in terms of DPS. Have a great tankiness, but you also need some damage to add on to that. And Dragon Knight 1 might just not cut it.
Yep, we see Cmel completing the Bounty Hunter 3. He's against the Wrist as well. Sorry, not the Bounty Hunter 3, the Tinker 3. The Tinker 3 is up and alive, and Tinker 3 has the 500 millisecond cooldown on the heat-seeking missile. This could be it for Wrist if the Tinker 3 goes off in the way that it needs to. I think enough units are dead in this case that Wrist, even if he loses this fight, will at least survive against this Tinker 3's DPS. But this Tinker cannot die at this point.
And the Slark level 3 is also one Slark away, so it's looking good for Cmel. He has a lot of upgrades coming in. He's still at 35 gold, so lots of rolls left as well. And he's fairly healthy, 37 HP.
Saw the power of that Tinker 3 there. I mean, when Tinker, gets low, especially Brooch of the Martyr on Tinker is insane too. Just like being able to turn that damage into mana.
Max down to 1 HP. No Aegis for him. Time combines Lycan 3, very powerful. Wrist also down to 8 HP. Both players rolled all the way down. They know that it's now or never. You have to use up your gold. Can't, die with 30, 40 gold. We saw it sometimes yesterday. Some players were running into that situation.
Yep. Looks like a pretty balanced lobby. Nobody's really streaking too far ahead.
TrueMad goes straight to level 9, uses all his gold up as well.
Yep. This is a typical like 6-mage player strategy. Often level 9 is very, very important for 6 mages because they're very thirsty for these hero slots. And TrueMad hits a really big power spike because of that, and he's against Wrist on this bottom board here. But we're against Max brings the axe on YCA. He's at 1 health. He needs to be able to withstand this. YCA has to have this, though. The Pudge at 3 stars is good. And this is terrible for Max brings axe, who was in 4th place points-wise. He's getting 8th in this lobby unless Wrist dies first, which doesn't seem to be happening here. That's the worst possible outcome for Max brings the axe at 4th place, hitting 8th in this lobby, getting 1 point.
All he needed was a consistent placement. Nothing too crazy. You don't have to win the lobby. Just a top 3, top 4.
No.
And he got
5th place.
8th place.
5th place or 6th place is totally fine.
Yeah.
But 8th place is huge. He just lowered his odds a lot of being able to make it to day 3 in this tournament.
So a very good start for Max, but game 4, kind of a faulty step, and game 5 will have to be really the make it or break it moment for him as a player moving into day 2 or day 3.
And Wrist is still just chilling here. We got some big upgrades.
Cmel finds the Slark.
And Cmel has to have the board to beat right now. The Mask of Madness on the Slark. The Brooch of the Martyr on the Tinker. 3 stars all around. Cmel has to have basically the nuttiest board imaginable here.
And go right into this mage backline. Just take down these mages that are oh so important.
And this is TrueMad at 15 health.
Keeper of the Light Blink Dagger, able to dodge the assassins. Got the cast off, and it almost makes it.
Oh, man. That was very, very, very close, but unfortunately not necessarily enough to knock TrueMad out. Down to 8 health, but still alive. Wrist playing against YCA's Phantom board, in this case, being able to sustain. YCA completing the Sniper 3 as well. So YCA and Cmel have to have the 2 boards to beat at the moment. Pretty impressed with how these hunters are holding up in this lobby.
Yeah, and both Wrist and TrueMad need to get a win here to start, to still keep dreaming about making it to the next day. They're both near the bottom of the leaderboard. YCA as well. He was 5th place, contesting Max for the 4th place position, and he's currently 1st place. So it's looking like it might be a very contested game 5 to end this group.
This is an extremely balanced lobby. Typically, you'll see like at least one person will be at like 50 plus health or something here, just kind of coasting economy. No economy here. Everyone's blown their load except for Chow and Cmel, who have like 20 gold.
And TrueMad pioneered the Blink Dagger, Keeper of the Light once again.
This is a disaster. TrueMad hits YCA on the Q, 8 health, and YCA might have the strongest board in the lobby right now. The level 3 Sniper and the level 3 Pudge. Will the mages be able to do it? They look like they're good. Pudge is not representing any real DPS here, and TrueMad repels against maybe the strongest board.
He's one of the better mage players in the world, plays a whole lot of them, and he, the Keeper of the Light early on with the Blink Dagger gets that extra mana, and got a pretty good burst into the backline, of course. Just good damage there to ruin his opponent's DPS.
Wrist gets eliminated in 7th place there. Very, very unfortunate. So close to completing so many things, like 1 Omninet off. But that's part of what, the risk you take when you go for a very contested build like Omninet. We can see even Chow Knives, who was leading early on as snofe completes Witch Doctor 3, was doing really, really well. But the 3 Knight players kind of ended up blocking each other here.
I believe the dream for Wrist is essentially over. He gets 2 points, going to be sitting at 31, whereas Max has a guaranteed 42 right now. So it is not possible, I think, in the standings for Wrist to advance to day 2. So first player that, says goodbye to the chances of extra stardom in the top 8 of this tournament.
Snofe coasting on the Terrorblade 3. He still has a pretty powerful board. I think it's not quite on the level of Cmel or YCA4s, but these round 30 items are going to represent some swing potential for these players. We see the bottom 2 health have Aegis available, so they will be able to potentially come back a little bit. It buys them a little bit of extra time. Panda, I can't yo every time that someone loses to a creep wave. Come on.
You can.
Panda's over here like pointing. He's got this expression on his face. He's like, Swim. He's literally nudging me. He's nudging me. He's like, Swim, why aren't you yoing that?
I'm
Swim?
just,
I can't yo every Panda. We're casting.
That's like a secondary job,
Okay. All right. Oh yeah. Wait,
Refresh Orb is massive for Snofe. Not sure exactly what targets he has, what units he has.
Cast,
Witch Doctor, pretty good.
Witch Doctor 3-star cast.
Although we were saying yesterday, Witch Doctor was, kind of a favorite for Octarine for Refresher, but he did get his cooldown reduced. Refresher does help with that.
We got the Abaddon 3-star being completed as well. And look at this new 3-star meta. 4 3-stars, 3 3-stars, 2 3-stars, 2 3-stars, and 2. And then TrueMad on the mage path. So this is part of the reason 6 mages is not really favored right now. TrueMad being kind of, a bit of a maverick here, trying to represent what is considered to be an outdated build as everyone else starts stacking their 3-stars.
And also, Truman at 29 points at the bottom of the leaderboards. We'll see if he can place high this game with these mages.
This may be his last chance. It doesn't
Keep
look good for him.
Yeah.
Everything has gone off. He's used all of his spells, and these demons are overwhelming him, making Truman our second player to get knocked out here.
And he does not have the Aegis either. He did lose it already.
Yep.
So he goes down in 7th place, 6th place.
So that is 2 players so far. Quickly snuffed out. No chances at advancing.
Yep. So Wrist and Truman
chunking.
both taken out. I think YCA is going to be kind of the big player to watch in Game 5 once we get there. But right now, he still has to try and get as many points as possible to get nearer to max on the leaderboards. Snofe and Cmel kind of, not too important what they do. Just trying out different builds.
Yeah, I mean, Cmel and Snofe at this point are basically both locked in. Cmel recently leveling to 9 just now, completing Templar Assassin level 2. It's all up to Nairo time. Nairo time needs to be able to come back. He was one of the lowest points before. He did pretty well in the last game. He does still have a chance here, Panda. But these beasts are hitting the point where they're falling off. 3-star Lycan, very, very fearsome. When it transforms, it does get something ridiculous in terms of health.
To the bigger comps to go for now, Savages and Knights duking it out in the end game here.
Yep. I got to say, Knights have to feel very favored, especially because Savages kind of relied on their, massive amount of pure damage from Tooth and Claw while still having, damage output from their passive. But now
the level 3 bear comes out, though.
It can't be good enough,
So,
and
yeah,
that's
it's
got to
not
be
enough.
it. Nairo time will be chunking out here, taking the fall as well, which I think also eliminates his odds from making it to day 3.
Yeah, the 3 players that were on 29 points, if my memory, if I recall correctly, were Trumad, Nairo Time, and Wrist, and all 3 of them go out at the very bottom alongside Max. So really the 4 players that had to place well have placed poorly, and the 4 players that didn't really need it as much, except for YCA, have a place near the top. Shadow Fiend, level 3,
there
coming
it
in
is.
hot.
And we have it. The locked-in Shadow Fiend level 3 on the side of Snofe. This is what you'd like to see. Typically regarded as something that you sometimes don't necessarily want to go for. I was talking about this with Joseph, who very rarely will do it. But in this case, when nobody else is on it and when you have the opportunity, it can be extremely powerful. See, this is potentially the last fight. Snofe at 8 health needs to be able to repel this. Knights are very strong. CK and Abaddon are tanky. They're starting to hit the backline. Very, very, very scary. Shadow Fiend is melting down, but he's made it this far. This Abaddon isn't dying either.
Yeah, we talked about the tankiness of Abaddon. We saw it before against the Slark a few games ago, and he continues to be an absolute meat unit.
And that's it. Snofe is taking too much damage here. Gets knocked out in 4th place. YCA at 9, able to repel this board, and 3 players remaining, all at very, very low health.
And YCA currently 34 points. Max went up to 42, getting 8th in this game. So slowly YCA, with every single position he's able to secure in this game, he's catching up little by little.
I think YCA has a chance here. We have Chow Knives top board right now. He's maintained the Knights. The other 2 Knight players are dropped out. He's feeling capable. He's got the Mask of Madness Luna. He has the highest health by far when you combine the Aegis with them. And the Abaddon 3-star is unkillable.
And some great items as well. Octarine on Necrophos. He has the Daedalus on Chaos Knight as well. Cannot complain there.
Hits YCA's board. YCA at 9 health needs to be able to repel against Chow Knives. This is all over otherwise. Chow Knives probably the strongest board on the on the entire lobby right now. Pudge at 3 stars is not dying, but once it goes down, this backline will melt.
It's a great tiny toss there as well on Luna, but is it enough? The front line is gone. Now it's only the DPS units. Can they burn through this?
They've
Fast
got
enough?
it.
Looks like they
YCA
can.
has
Yeah.
this. So Chow Knives takes some damage here. Chow Knives still alive, still with Aegis. Cmel on the Phantom board, repels Phantom, and all 3 players are alive. We're going to the round 35 creep round. Players are looking for bailout items, all at almost single-digit health.
And for YCA to secure or to steal away the 4th place position going into Game 5, he has to win this game.
Yep.
He has to get all 10 points. Of course, the big difference between first and second from 10 to 7 points would mean that if he gets second, he's only going to be at 41, 1 point behind Max, where if he gets first place, he'll catapult up to 44 points and steal that 4th place position from Max.
I think YCA's best bet in this game is 2nd place. I have to give it to Chow Knives here. I mean, he still has the Aegis, which is useful at this point of the game. It represents basically extra health, in the form of an item. But he's also saved his economy, right? He had a bit of health, which allowed him to greed and spend his gold a bit later, and he's on the outs. The other 2 Knight players are dead. Their pieces are released back into the pool, and he's on huge outs in the form of Luna in particular. Luna with the Mask of Madness, as pointed out, absolutely ridiculous on a 3-star Luna. That DPS increase is literally insane.
We'll see what items are required here. All players should be strong enough to be beating this Black Dragon. Scythe of Vice, Daedalus comes in for Cmel. Great DPS item there.
Cmel's Daedalus is going to do very, very well on this 3-star Bounty Hunter.
It's not something you see every day. Bounty Hunter Daedalus.
Yep.
It's a strange one.
The Assassin perk as well. It's going to combine very nicely. Chow Knives rolling it down. He's looking very furiously. He's got 1 Batrider on the out. 2 Lunas or 1 Batrider is what he needs, spending 25 more gold. He's thinking about spending all of it in this 15-second window. There's the Dragonite 2. There's the Batrider 3. And here are the upgrades we're talking about.
One more.
1 more Luna. He's got 3 rolls. 2 rolls. 1 roll. And he misses. Okay, he sold. He's got it. The Luna 3 stars is in, and he's secured every upgrade. He hits a Phantom board. We have to watch Cmel versus YCA. 9 health to 12. Cmel has the stronger board.
There's the Slark. He's coming in. He's walking. The walking Slark. He gets pulled.
The Slark might go down here. The hook might have ended him. He needs to get bursted. The Slark is all the DPS. Slark's gone.
Is it too late, though? I think it might be too late.
That's got to be it. Cmel has to be good here. That's enough damage for YCA to get knocked out. Chow Knives is good on his board. So now Chow Knives the favorite to win this fight. Even though Cmel is hitting this streak, Chow Knives just used all of his gold, got 3 really, really powerful upgrades.
And again, both players, Cmel and Chow Knives, very comfortable at the top. Chow Knives maybe a bit less, but still I think they're pretty much secured for day 2 at this point. First and second place, a great amount of points added onto their score already after 7 or 8 games, this being the 9th game of the group. And YCA can't complain. He caught up a tiny bit to Max. We're going to have a very exciting Game 5 duel, mostly between YCA and Max bringing the axe.
Yep. So we have Chow Knives here with the Scythe of Vice on Dragonite. We saw some cheeky plays with this from Bruised by God yesterday. Hitting, in this case, the TA.
The Slark gets the Force Staff push all the way back. He walks all the way back to the back line.
Oh my God. That's almost Scythe of Vice level.
He's going in. The lifesteal is there. He is. Oh, it's still going up. He cannot get stunned, though. Jump.
That is gigantic.
Oh, the lifesteal is massive.
Does it. Oh, my God.
So everything seemed to work out, but in the end, Slark, against adversity, walking all the way back to the back line.
That is crazy.
Deals a ton of damage.
That is insane. And Chow Knives' Aegis pops. He does have the chance here. He still has a very, very powerful board. This is where positioning is going to matter. He needs to be able to outlast this Slark.
Abaddon is in the back corner, but the last game, as soon as the round started, he walked up.
Yeah.
And that kind of... And I think that position change is because of this. You know, it's reacting to the fact that Abaddon did walk up. And at this point, well, that's... Okay.
Chow Knives is trying to get the Slark Force Staffed again. It's a little bit risky. It disables him, but it means he does attack something that's maybe not Vanguarded. So if the Slark jumps onto this Force Staff, it will get pushed away again. It's a really, really big disarm. Didn't work last fight. Jumps on Force Staff. It's huge.
Look how slow
He's
the walk
literally
is.
just disabled. He's out of this fight. The Techie's Bomb might trivialize it. The Techie's Bomb comes down. The Disruptor ulti's there, and that's got to be it.
Yeah.
Cmel has to have this.
It seems enough. Slark comes back into the action and just seals the deal here.
And Cmel knocks out Chow Knives. What a huge finish. I got to say, Panda, I mean, it didn't make a difference, but I'm incredibly impressed with Force Staff there.
Yeah, Force Staff and the Abaddon level 3 in the backline. So you can tell these players are definitely reacting to the positioning, reacting to what their opponent has, especially in the 1v1 battles. It matters so much, and we saw why. The very small detail, putting a Force Staff, which is kind of considered a meme item for some people.
Well, it recently got patched.
And it got a lot better as well.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and see what the analyst desk has to say about this one.
Yeah, very exciting game there with Slark 3. Always exciting. Analyst panel, break it down for us, please.